All right, well, the first day of the impeachment trial has wrapped up. We've seen the opening arguments from both the House impeachment managers and former President Trump's lawyers. The vote was clear that there are still 44 Republicans who say this trial shouldn't even be happening because it's unconstitutional. Can't imagine Donald Trump is going to get convicted. So, Peter, what do you think? Is it worthwhile for the Democrats to have done this in hindsight? Should they have gone through censure? Or is this going to backfire and make Trump stronger within his own party?
Well, I started out believing that they should have moved towards censure because that would have put more Republicans on the spot. You know, a very strong censure motion, I think, would have been might have passed. But when I listened to the presentation of the House team, it was so compelling, and this guy is such a schmuck that they had to go and vote. They had to do this. It was absolutely required. The officer who lost 3 fingers, the officer who was killed, the officer who had a heart attack, they all deserved their day this afternoon, and this president deserved it. So I changed my mind.
They're good.
Yeah, I first of all wonder whether the Republicans would have stepped up and done the right thing on a censure vote anyway if it had been presented. So, given that I have some doubts about how they would have behaved in those circumstances, since part of this exercise is to see who's going to walk the plank and continue to defend him. But if this behavior is not impeachable, I don't know what is, and I'm not sure I understand. Even though it is an important endeavor and time suck when there are other things that need to be done, I'm bewildered by this notion that you don't do anything in the face of such absolutely despicable behavior that is not only unprecedented, but hopefully we'll never see again.
And you have right now, at most 5, maybe 6 Republicans to vote to convict. Do you think, Peter, if the testimony becomes, in the video testimony, becomes even more compelling, you see the American public right now where a slim majority, 56% or so, want to see Trump found guilty. If that goes up to 60, low 60s, do you think you can see more Republicans voting guilty, if not to get to 67, but maybe even to hit the 60 mark?
They won't get to 60, and they're simply too cowed by him. But they might pick up another 1 or 2 votes. But we're at the max. I think they made a tremendous case. The next couple of days are going to be very compelling and very depressing, frankly. And then we're going to move on, and I think we're going to see a lot of 51-50 votes or 52-49 votes, and the Democrats are just going to have to understand that this idea of, well, we really time for unity. It was never time for unity with these guys, and we just got to drive home the agenda that we think is going to select.
They're good.
Well, I think we've already become lulled into a little bit of a state of normalcy. So I'm actually wondering what's lurking out there in terms of bizarre moves that the former president still has available to him, including pulling the pitcher, so to speak, and yanking some of these lawyers who were so disastrous today.
And maybe I'll we've got what's going to certainly be the shortest impeachment trial in history. This one, maybe a week, maybe just barely under or over. Peter, within his own party, does Donald Trump come out of this the front runner for 2024, or the king/queen maker for 2024? Do you think this damages him over the long term within his own party?
I don't think it damages him with his base at all, and I think he remains, until someone challenges him within his own party face to face and takes him on, he remains the driving force in the Republican Party, period. He raises the money. He's going to spend it to promote himself. I think he's the powerhouse.
Same analysis
Yeah,
there, Ed?
well, certainly for the midterm elections, he's going to be a major player, and it's been fascinating to watch just in the behavior of Senator McConnell on the one hand, who clearly wanted to quietly move away and move on to a new chapter, and McCarthy on the other hand, who's down there at Mar-a-Lago doing everything he can to undo any potential damage he might have caused with his insane he did and he didn't speech on the House floor. And then the Marjorie Taylor Greene pronouncement, not that she dictates what goes on in the party, but I don't hear a lot of senior Republican members denouncing her for saying that it's still his party. And of course, you got Matt Gaetz running around, but I think that's going to be the case for the midterms. I think there's going to be a lot of behavior aimed at getting endorsements and support from him. But I think that the McConnell side of the party will find a way to help the presidential primaries process move away from him. You'll see people chase after his supporters, but I'm not sure they're going to be running out to get his endorsement.
Well, but don't you think, Thurgood, that McConnell has to vote for impeachment for him to have any standing?
I think that's a fair question, but I wonder about how much his hands are already tied if he's of the view that the process should not have even gone forward. But I think I'd like to see whether he's going to accept this argument on the facts. And you're right, that is another stone that needs to be turned here if it's going to happen.
Well, I think that's the most interesting thing for us to watch in the week coming up, and we'll talk about next week, is how do the Republicans handle this? Where does American public opinion go? I think it's only going to go up in terms of looking for conviction, and then how the Republicans start calculating this for themselves and setting themselves to run. It's clear Rubio and Cruz and Hawley are going to be very vocal and not convict. But where does McConnell go? Where do others go who know what's the right thing to do seemingly for the party? So we'll come back and talk about that next week. I read that Donald Trump has now accounted for half of all impeachments in the history of the United States.
Well, I think they're going to vote on Friday, so we'll see.
Wow, Friday. All right. We'll see if it's that bad. Now, guys, we'll talk next week.
See you guys.
Yeah.